Welcome on behalf of the Alabama Holocaust Commission to Alabama's annual Holocaust commemoration. I'm Dr. Dan Puckett, the chair of the Alabama Holocaust Commission. And today on Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, we come together to remember the 6 million Jews, 1.5 million of whom were children who were murdered by the Nazis. We also remember the millions of other victims of the Holocaust, the disabled, the Roma, the Sinti, the Gypsies, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, Poles, Russians, among many others. We honor their memory as well as the survivors of the Holocaust, those who were targeted, persecuted, those who suffered, those who lost, and those who ultimately triumphed over Hitler's final solution. The Alabama Holocaust Commission was established in 1999 by the legislature with the specific purpose to promote Holocaust education throughout the state, and also to remember through commemorations such as this. And so today, Alabama remembers. What I'd like to do right now is to recognize some of our distinguished guests. First and foremost, I'd like to recognize our Holocaust survivors here in the state. Ms. Reva Hirsch, who is with us here. Mr. Leonard Schilkrat, who is right here. And Mr. Jack Schnipper, who is here. I want to say thank you so much. It is an honor for you to be here, and we're all so glad you could come. I would also like to thank members of the commission, the Alabama Holocaust Commission. And I've seen a number, I'm not exactly sure who is here, but if you are a member of the commission, please stand so we can see you. Thank you so much for your service. And last but not least, I want to thank the teachers and the students of St. James who have come. And this has been an annual event for us to host the 8th grade of St. James. And this year we get to host the choir of St. James, who is going to perform a selection from Inge Auerbacher, who was set to be our keynote speaker. But before we get into it, I want to say a few words about our mission to promote Holocaust education. Our mission is just as relevant today as it was when we were formed in 1999. I think even more so. There's a recent survey that just came out from the Claims Commission that showed 70% of Americans think fewer people today care about the Holocaust than they did in the past. What's even more shocking, they found that 58% of Americans, over half, believe something like the Holocaust could happen again. Now, this comes in the face of rising anti-Semitism abroad and at home. Just earlier this year in January, there was an attack on a synagogue in Colleyville, Texas. Thankfully, no one was killed. But that follows deadly attacks from Poway, California in 2019 and Pittsburgh in 2018. Just a few days ago, the president said, "Remembrance is our eternal duty, but remembrance without action risks becoming an empty ritual." It's imperative that we remember, as fewer and fewer survivors are with us today. It's also imperative that we not be bystanders to injustice, to prejudice, to discrimination. It's imperative that we ensure that never again is more than just a meaningless phrase. So thank you. Welcome to this year's Yom HaShoah commemoration. It's my pleasure to introduce Rabbi Steve Silberman of Ahavas Hesed Synagogue in Mobile, who will offer our invocation.
Ribono Shel Olam, Creator of eternity, turn in compassion to the broken hearts of your children. For we on this sacred day of convention remember the unspeakable destruction done to our people, children and adults, families and loners, wealthy and poor, ill and healthy, admired and infinitely precious, and all were targeted by monstrous wicked ones who rejected your ultimate truth, the truth of loving one's neighbor as oneself. Shopkeepers, rabbis, journalists, prostitutes, cantors, peddlers, homemakers, musicians, simpletons, and more, all committed to life, all violated and destroyed because their cells contained DNA marked with the double helix of menorah and lulav. See the tears shed by your very own beloved 6 millions of offspring of Sarah and Abraham, with whom you swore an eternal oath of protection. See the loyal children of Israel who al Kiddush Hashem perished, that your covenant remain unbroken. Many whose names are yet known and many whose names will never be known suffered hunger, cold, rape, and torture, witnessing the murder of their children, that their loyalty to your chosenness be unquestioned. Bring your love to all who are removed from this earth, descendants of Miriam and Moses, and children of Noah. Take into your outstretched hands the sacred 6 million, and the beloved and holy 5 million who stood counter the onslaught against the Jewish people. Remember in sacred trust the Roma, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the loyal Christians, the righteous Gentiles, the peasants and the unnamed principled ones, all who embodied the greatest ideals of humanity and compassion, who placed themselves in the paths of bullets and fire, stabbing and slaughter, that life might be salvaged from the fires of man-made hell. Emerge from the silent distance of your heaven, and come to our world. Heed our prayers and soften the hearts of those who harden themselves against all minorities. Heed our prayers and open the hearts of those who close themselves off from people whose skin color differs, whose beliefs are unfamiliar, whose names and languages originate differently. Champion the underprivileged, the less famous, the unathletic, the non-attractive, the less admired, the poor, the least of us all. Stand by us all and make your name great through the protection of the vulnerable. Recreate your universe, source of life, with infinite mercy, overwhelming cruelty, and begin on this day of sacred convention. And we all say, Amen.
It's my pleasure now to introduce two members of the legislature of the House of Representatives, both members of the Alabama Holocaust Commission, Representative David Faulkner of Birmingham and Representative Danny Garrett of Trussville. And they will come present the legislative resolution on the Holocaust. And before, let me just say a public thank you to both of you for all of the work you've done. They don't hear this enough, but the work they do for Holocaust education is invaluable. Thank you both.
Leonid, Reva, Jack, what an honor to have you here in the room today. It means so much to me to see my friend Reva, who lives in my district, and to be here. We've been together and with Leonid before on the House floor. The legislature is not in session. We finished early this year. So normally what we would do is we would have this ceremony and we would be going into the House and we would have a session with the survivors who could make it on the floor. And it's one of the most moving things that we do in the legislature. I know Danny agrees. All our members wear the remember ribbons that we always remember and never forget. And we've told the stories of our survivors. And it moves the Alabama legislature beyond anything we do. Serving on this commission has had a profound impact on my life. I'm grateful. When I became a member of the legislature 8 years ago, this is not what I was expecting, that I would be serving. I did not know I would be appointed, and I was appointed to serve on the commission. And it has truly been one of the most profound things that I have been able to do as a member of the legislature. It's been a blessing, mostly because of the impact from the survivors and the people that I have met and what it's meant to me. And I know Betty Steinmetz is here. Max, we lost Max year before last. He was also from my district and a wonderful person. And that is what has moved me beyond anything, is the survivors and the love in your heart has really moved me. So we are not in session, but we did pass a joint resolution with the Senate. This resolution is signed by the governor, and every member of the House is on this resolution. Danny holds the Senate resolution, which Senator Waggoner introduced, and it is signed by the Lieutenant Governor. I will read to you the House resolution, and then we'll play our vote on that resolution. Recognizing the Alabama Yom HaShoah commemoration on April 26, 2022, whereas the Alabama Holocaust Commission will host a 2022 State Yom HaShoah commemoration on April 26, 2022, to observe the passage of Yom HaShoah, which this year falls between the evenings of April 27th and 28th. The Alabama Holocaust Commission is overjoyed to announce that this year's Yom HaShoah commemoration will be a hybrid virtual physical event with physical festivities at the Alabama Department of Archives and History, accompanied by a digital streaming celebration. And whereas Yom HaShoah was instituted by Israel in 1951 as a day of commemoration for the 6 million Jews who perished in the Holocaust, the largest manifestation of hate and intolerance in modern history. And whereas there is no institutionalized ritual for Yom HaShoah, commemorations may include synagogue services, communal vigils, and educational programs, the lighting of memorial candles, and reciting of prayers for the departed are generally featured in the solemn ceremony. And whereas this year's ceremony will include a broadcast of various speakers, including government officials, figures from the Alabama Jewish community, and stories of Holocaust survivors and liberators. And whereas at this year's ceremony, the presence of Holocaust survival Max Herzl will be dearly missed as he departed this earth on October 29th, 2021, at the age of 91, after decades of sharing his story and spreading awareness of the horrors he and millions of others endured. The ceremony will also commemorate and honor other living and recently departed Holocaust survivors. And whereas the Alabama Holocaust Commission was established by legislation in 1999 to foster understanding and promote education about the Holocaust, our good friends and colleagues, Representative David Faulkner and Danny Garrett and Senator Jabo Waggoner, all of Jefferson County, are active members of this commission. And whereas among the duties of the Holocaust Commission is the responsibility to enhance public awareness of the consequences and significance of the Holocaust, the enabling act of the commission states that it is the policy of the state of Alabama that Holocaust education is the proper concern of all peoples. And whereas events such as the 2022 Yom HaShoah commemoration are consistent with the mission of the Alabama Holocaust Commission, providing Holocaust education and focusing on citizen involvement in this commemoration. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that on this momentous occasion of the Yom HaShoah commemoration, sponsored by the Alabama Holocaust Commission on April 26, 2022, we recognize and honor the memory of the lives lost in the Holocaust and honor those who survived to share their stories. Be it further resolved that events such as this year's Yom HaShoah commemoration are vital to enhancing public awareness of the consequences and significance of the Holocaust, and for instilling in our fellow people a sense of understanding of the true cost of hate and intolerance. By growing and learning from the past and extending grace and mercy, we achieve true victory over the evils of this world. Signed by Governor Kay Ivey and Secretary of State John Merrill. With that, Rabbi Scott Kramer, if we'll roll the vote that was taken on the resolution.
Good afternoon, members. House will come to order.
So what we were doing today is remembering, and we have Senator Waggoner's Senate Joint Resolution that is the Yom HaShoah resolution we pass every year. I just want to say that it's been an honor to be on the Alabama Holocaust Commission, and Dan Puckett is president of the Alabama Holocaust Commission, and I would ask Dan if you'd come up and just say a few words before we take up the resolution.
You're recognized, Mr. Puckett.
Thank you. On behalf of the Alabama Holocaust Commission, I would just like to say to all of you, thank you for your support. The commission was created in 1999 by the legislature to promote and support Holocaust education throughout the state. And with your support, we have been able to do that. So on behalf of the commission, thank you so much. But I would also like to point out the efforts of these three individuals up here, Danny Garrett, Jabo Waggoner, and David Faulkner. Their efforts at supporting the commission and what we do, our mission, has been extraordinary. Thank you three.
Yes, sir. Chair thanks the gentleman.
And I should add, I should have asked Representative Jim Carnes to come up. Jim was instrumental in setting up the commission and the original funding. And so Jim, thank you. I just want to make sure we recognized you. This wouldn't have been possible had you not in those early days, along with Jabo, gotten this going. So thank you.
All right,
with that,
at this time, let's go, Mr. Clerk, let's go ahead and get the explanation of the resolution on the floor.
Senate Joint Resolution Number 8, recognizing the Alabama Yom HaShoah commemoration on April 26, 2022.
And Chairman Jones, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move adoption, and the sponsor has requested a call vote on the board.
Okay, all right, there will be a roll call vote on this. If you are in favor of this resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 98, then your vote will be aye. If you're opposed, your vote will be no. And the clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. There are 97 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention, and Senate Joint Resolution 98 is adopted. And the chair thanks the gentleman. And
thank you, Chairman Jones. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
yes,
thank
sir.
you, members.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you so much.
I want just to share a brief story I think I've shared before years ago, but my connection to the Holocaust happened when I was a young child. My family moved to Alabama on my first birthday. We moved from Memphis. My grandparents lived in East Memphis, next door to a Holocaust survivor, Bertel Schiffman. And as a young child, I would go back to visit my grandmother and would visit with Miss Schiffman as a young boy, and heard her stories, saw her kindness, saw the love in her heart, and she really impacted my life. Years later, last time I saw her, I was in college. She had moved from my grandmother's area to a condominium in Memphis, went to visit her and had a wonderful visit with her there. But today, I want to remember Miss Schiffman, Bertel Schiffman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David, Danny. The keynote address that we had, Miss Inge Auerbacher, who was a survivor of the Theresienstadt concentration camp, as all of our survivors are now elderly. They survived, they triumphed. Miss Auerbacher journeyed to Berlin not long ago and fell ill on her return and spent 6 months in the hospital, 6 weeks in the hospital, and has been unable to speak. So what we have is Charles Barron is going to tell us a little bit about Miss Auerbacher. She is an author, a poet, a songstress, and after his presentation, the St. James Choir will present one of her songs, Who Am I?
It is not a usual event that something that happened to me 44 years ago will come around 44 years later and enable me to keep a promise. On June 25th, 1978, I promised the following. Hasridim tzrichim kol Ve'ani eshtadel latet lahem kol. The survivors need a voice, and I will try to give them a voice. Today, 2022, April 26th, I am keeping my promise to Holocaust survivors, specifically to one Inge Auerbacher. So who am I? Said Inge. I am a Jewish girl from the village of Kippenheim in Baden in southern Germany near the French border. I also come from Geppingen. I was born on December 31st, 1934 in Kippenheim. Jews and Christians lived together in peace for those years. I was the last Jewish child to be born there, the only child of Bertolt and Regina Auerbacher. My father served in the German army in World War I and was badly wounded. He was a decorated soldier, awarded the Iron Cross. He was a textile merchant. My mother lived in Jebenhausen, and her mother was from a large family of 14 children, 4 of whom served in the German army for the fatherland, and 2 of whom died for the fatherland. We were a happy little community in Kippenheim until something happened on the 10th day of the month of November in the year 1938. Violent Nazis came to my town, and all of a sudden I heard the windows of my house breaking and rocks coming flying through the windows, many of which almost hit me in the head. And I was a little girl, barely, almost 4 years old. Now, in Kippenheim, the synagogues were not burnt down because in Kippenheim, there were non-Jewish people who had houses near the synagogues, and the Nazis determined that those houses shouldn't be endangered. However, all the men and boys who were above 16 years old, including my father and my grandfather, were deported to Dachau, where they were held in Block 16. Several weeks later, they were released and came back home. They told us terrible stories of what the SS Nazis had done to them in Dachau. At this point, it was imperative that we leave Germany. We sold our house in Kippenheim in 1939, and my father lost his business. We moved in Jebenhausen with my grandparents, hoping there would soon be a place for us to emigrate. But where to? All the doors were beginning to close. Anti-Semitic laws and decrees were being issued all over the place, targeting the Jews. And nevertheless, the residents of Jebenhausen, a lot of them remained loyal friends, even though it was forbidden for Christians and Jews to have anything to do with each other. And some of them gave us food as well. And even the children used to play with me. Then I turned 6 years old and it was time for me to learn how to read and write. But the Nazis said, Jews cannot go to school with Christians. They have to only go to the Jewish school. So for me to go to school, I had to go and to walk 3 kilometers to a train station. And then I had to go on a train for an hour to Stuttgart, where I was in a Jewish school. Now, mind you, when I was on that train, they made us wear the yellow star. And some of the kids made fun of me. I was taunted and harassed by some of those kids. But sometimes there were nice things that happened to me on that train. A woman left the little bag of bread rolls right next to me. She must have seen that I was traveling all alone, and I had the yellow star, and so she took pity on me. At the end of 1941, the deportation started. My grandma was sent to Riga in Latvia, where she was shot. The Jewish school in Stuttgart was closed. I didn't even finish first grade. We moved into a Jewish home in Göppingen. And in August 1942, my parents and many other Jews were told to assemble in the school gymnasium in the Schiller Schule in Göppingen. All our belongings were searched. One of the guards saw that I was wearing something, some kind of little wooden pin, and he liked it. So he ripped it off my shirt, and in a harsh voice he said, "Du brauchst das nicht, wo du hingehst." You won't need this where you're going. And I had my doll. The doll I named after Marlene Dietrich. She was in my arms, and he ripped the doll from my arms. He wanted to see if I was trying to smuggle something. Tears were streaming down my face. And I was very happy when that Nazi soldier gave me back Marlene. We were sent to a transit camp from Göppingen and then in Stuttgart. And then on August 22nd, 1942, we were put on a transport made of Jewish people from Württemberg and sent to a place called Therezin, which in German is called Theresienstadt. I was 7 years old. I was the youngest person in the transport of 1,100 Jews. My parents and I were one of the very, very few who survived. We were on this train for 2 days, and it was still a passenger train, mind you. It was very crowded. We arrived at the station, and then we heard the guards yelling, "Drop everything except your bedroll and metal dishes. Get going, march, do as you're told." We were surrounded by guards with whips. My parents put me between them, so I was protected from the blows. I was holding on to Marlene for dear life, and we walked for 3 kilometers. For old people, this was a very long and difficult journey on foot. We passed through an arch into a garrison, very large garrison with brick buildings. We went to the 3rd floor. There were no beds. There was just cold floor. It was very overcrowded and people crammed all over the place. This concentration camp was totally sealed off from the outside world with high walls, wooden fences, and barbed wire. Contact with everyone outside was forbidden. The camp inmates came from all over Europe. They were older people, prominent people, and many were highly decorated veterans of World War I. And for me, it was very hard, this Theresienstadt. There was no escape. Either you had 4 choices. You had death from disease, you had death from suicide, you had death from starvation, or the one-way trip to the gas chambers in Auschwitz. Most families would live separately from each other, but they could see each other. But my mother and father and me were able to live together in the quarters assigned for disabled war veterans. We slept on sacks of straw, crowded together in 2 to 3 tier bunks. Now, we children, we became very independent. We had to do something. The most important words in our vocabulary were bread, potatoes, and soup. Life in Theresienstadt was all about food. Now, the bathrooms, they were just holes in the ground, latrines, far away. Rarely we were able to take a shower. Our playground was a foul-smelling garbage dump. We rummaged around here for hours trying to find treasures like a rotten turnip or some potato skin. If it was still edible, we would cut a little bit off to eat. School was forbidden. Classes were held in secret. For the children, we were taught some basic reading and writing skills. This was called keeping ourselves busy. I made a doll. I made a bed for my doll out of a dirty piece of cardboard. And one day I found a dead mouse in the box. And this is another victim of the starvation in Theresienstadt. There were epidemics there because the place lacked sanitation and it was so overcrowded. Typhus, rats, mice, fleas, lice, and bed bugs. These were our constant companions in Theresienstadt. There were also frequent deportations. That noise of that train, the long noise, the train to Auschwitz. One day in 1944, all the disabled war veterans had to report to the commandant's office in alphabetical order. We had no idea that this was a selection for Auschwitz. Now, we shared our room with somebody named Abraham, and they had a daughter, Ruth Nellie, and I was very good friends with her. Both our fathers were disabled war veterans. And we were like sisters. We promised to visit each other after the war. I wanted to go to Berlin and say, hey, Ruth, I'm in Berlin. I come to visit you. But Ruth and her parents didn't make it to the end of the war. They got sent to the gas chambers of Auschwitz in 1944. She didn't even make it to her 10th birthday. On the 8th day of the month of May in 1945, we were liberated by the Russian army, and the misery, our misery, finally ended, or so I thought. Out of 140,000 people who were sent to Theresienstadt, 33,000 died there, 88,000 were murdered, mostly in Auschwitz or at other camps. 15,000 children came and passed through Theresienstadt, about 100 survived, including me. The city of Stuttgart was very nice. They sent us a bus to pick up the survivors. So we went back to Göppingen, but stayed there a few months. And in May of 1946, about a year after the war ended, we emigrated to New York. I was 11 years old. My parents found work as a maid, my mother, and my father was a butler. I thought America was a paradise, a wonderland. Unfortunately, my dream was about to end. I had this cough, see? And they took me to the doctor, my parents. The doctor examined me and said, Mr. and Mrs. Auerbacher, your daughter's very sick. She's got tuberculosis in both lungs. She's got to go to the hospital right away. It was caused, the doctor said, by the 3 years I spent in Theresienstadt, where I was undernourished and lived in filthy conditions because of the Nazis. So once again, I was put, locked up. I was in tears. I had to spend 2 years in bed and undergo painful examinations because of Theresienstadt. Then my parents said, enough is enough. We got an apartment in Brooklyn. So I went to Brooklyn. Within a few months, I was even worse shape. I had bleeding in my lungs. I was very weak. I said to the Lord God, please don't let me die. I want to live. So at this time, there was kind of a miracle that happened. This thing called streptomycin was invented. It was the first antibiotic that was effective against tuberculosis. I stayed in bed for another year, but because I had all these injections of streptomycin, it cured me. And at the age of 15, I went to school. I finished high school in 3 years instead of 4. And I was very interested in science, especially chemistry, so I went to college to study chemistry. But alas, after a few weeks, I got sick again, and I had to spend another 12 months in bed and take 26 pills a day and 2 shots of streptomycin. Finally, I went back to college and completed my studies. For 38 years, I pursued a career in chemistry, and a chemist in medical research and clinical work in Queens County, New York City. To sum up, as far as I know, I'm the only child survivor who was deported from Stuttgart to the concentration camps. 20 members of my family were murdered by the Nazis. I spent 3 years in Theresienstadt. I endured 4 years of bed rest due to the severe effects this Theresienstadt had on my health. I lost 8 years of schooling and suffered 4 years of stigmatization because I was a Jew with that yellow star, as well as the stigma because of that disease. No one wanted to marry me. I never got to wear a wedding dress. I never got to be a mama grandma. But I'm happy. The children of the world are my family. And I would like to conclude by sharing what my heart desires the most. Hatred against the people is terrible. We're all born as brothers and sisters. My greatest wish is reconciliation among all people. So, ladies and gentlemen, light a candle today to remember the murdered innocent men, women, children, and babies. Light a candle to celebrate life and hold back the darkness. Take care of your sisters and brothers. Then you will always be blessed. We're all born as children of God. The gates to unity and peace are opening. The past must never be forgotten. Together, let us pray for unity on earth. Together, let us welcome a new tomorrow and never lose sight of this dream. Thank you very much. I also would like to say that Who Am I, which is a song by Inge Auerbacher, will be performed by the St. James School Choir. This inspiring song is based upon a poem by Inge Auerbacher, a Holocaust survivor. The raw expression of the lyrics with a simple melody and soulful harmonies combine to create a piece that is both thought-provoking and emotionally stirring, and I quote, "I am many silent girls and boys. I was born to live and be their voice. I am the new link in a broken chain. Who am I? I am."
I am the tears that never dry. I am the flame that touched the sky. Out of the ashes I was born. Who am I? Who am I? I am the life our loved ones knew. I am the dream that has come true. I am the song that was never heard. Who am I? Who am I? I am happiness and sorrow. I'm yesterday and tomorrow. I bear the names of unknown faces from distant places. I am every silent girls and boys. I was born to live and be their voice. I am the new link in a broken chain. am I? I am. I am. I am. I am. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, achol b'chayam, rishru shel hamayim, barak hashamayim, tfilat hadam, achol b'chayam, rishru shel hamayim, barak hashamayim, tfilat hadam. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
This song was written after the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Teenagers fighting the Nazis, sometimes with their bare hands, in April of 1943. It became the hymn of all the Jewish partisan groups, the entire length and breadth of Europe. Zog nit kein Morlas, du gehtst dem letzten Weg, Gott Himmeln bleien, verstellen bläue Tag. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Show, es wird ab heute unser Trott, wir seinen do. Kommen wird noch unsere ausgebänkte Show. Es wird ein Poik von unser Trott, wir sein in da. Never say this is the final road for you. Though leaden skies may cover over days of blue. As the hour that we long for is so near, our step beats out the message, we are here. As the hour that we long for is so near, our step beats out the message, we are here. From lands so green with palms to lands all white with snow, we shall be coming with our anguish and our woe. And where a spurt of our blood fell on the earth, there our courage and our spirit have rebirth. The early morning sun will brighten our day, and yesterday with our foe will fade away. But if the sun delays and in the east remains, this song as password generations must maintain. This song was written with our blood and not with lead. It's not a little tune that birds sing overhead. This song a people sang amid collapsing walls. With grenades in hands, they heeded to the call. Therefore, never say the road now ends for you. Though leaden skies may cover over days of blue. As the hour that we long for is so near, our step beats out the message, we are here. As the hour that we long for is so near, our step beats out the message, we are here.
Ani mamin, ani mamin, ani mamin, mehemona sheleimo, bevias HaMashiach, bevias HaMashiach, ani mamin, ve'af על פי שישממיה, עם כל זה יחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא. אני מאמין, אני מאמין, אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח אני מאמין, ואף על פי שישממיה, עם כל זה יחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא.
Thank you. You know, every year, yes, please. Every year at the commemoration, the governor of the state presents a proclamation in honor of this. And in all 12 years I have been here, this is only the second time the governor was unable to come, and she sends her regrets. Governor Ivey has been such a supporter of Holocaust education, and we certainly miss her today, but we are very fortunate and honored to have Senator Jabo Waggoner here to present Governor Ivey's proclamation. Senator Waggoner is a member of the Holocaust Commission. We're very privileged to have him on board. He is the longest serving legislator in Alabama history. And as a historian, what I'd say, he is probably, if not the one of the most influential state legislators this state has ever seen. So we are indeed honored to have him come. make the presentation. And as he does, I'd like to have Reva, Mr. Shilkrot, Mr. Schnipper, please come up as the governor's proclamation is read.
Thank you for the introduction. It's such an honor for me to be here today and to participate in the program by reading the proclamation by the governor of the state of Alabama. And I do bring her regrets, but I guess you understand she's running for office and she's on the campaign trail. But this has always been a very important day for her. But I'm honored to be able to participate in her place. Proclamation by the governor of Alabama. Whereas the Holocaust was a state-sponsored systematic persecution and annihilation of European Jews by Nazi Germany, and its collaboration between 1933 and 1945. And whereas Jews, people with disabilities, and Poles were targeted for distraction or dissemination for racial, ethnic, or national reasons, and millions more, including homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, Soviet prisoners of war, and political dissidents also suffered grievous oppression and deaths under Nazi tyranny. And whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments, whereas the people of the state of Alabama should always remember the terrible events of the Holocaust and remain vigilant against hatred, persecution, and tyranny. And whereas the people of Alabama should actively rededicate themselves to the principles of individual freedom in just society, whereas pursuant to an act of Congress, Public Law 96-388, October 7, 1980, the United States Holocaust Memorial Council designates the days of remembrance of the victims of the Holocaust to be Sunday, April the 24th through Sunday, May the 1st, 2022, including the Day of Remembrance known as Yom HaShoah, April 27th, 2021. Whereas the days of remembrance have been set aside for the people of the state of Alabama to remember the victims of the Holocaust, as well as to reflect on the need for respect of all people. Now, therefore, I, Kay Ivey, governor of the state of Alabama, do hereby proclaim April 24th through May 1st, 2022 as the days of remembrance in the state of Alabama, given under my hand and the great seal of the office of the governor at the state capitol in the city of Montgomery on the 18th day of April, 2022. Signed, Gay Ivey, Governor.
Yes, I'd like y'all to stay up here. What we are going to do now is to light memorial candles to the victims that were lost in the Holocaust. And I would like our three survivors to begin with a candle. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Sure. I'd also like to ask the families of our two recently departed survivors, now Miss Betty Steinmetz, please come up and light a candle. Carol Elliott Herzl, please. I'd like to ask any of the second or third generation survivors to come up and light a candle in memory, please. While it is a crowded stage, if anybody else feels moved to light a candle, please. Thank you so much. This has been extraordinary.
For those who are able, we rise for El Malay Rachamim. El Malay Rachamim. Shochein, Shochein Mameromim, Ametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanvei Ashchina, Kedoshim utehorim, Kesohar harakim amasyerim, Lenishmot 6,000,000 acheinu ve'achioteinu, שנספו ונהרגו בשואה, בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, מצרור בצרור. החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום, בשלום על משכבם, ונאמר אמן.
Please remain standing for the Shoah Mourners Kaddish. Yit Gadal,
Auschwitz,
V'yit Gadash,
Lodz,
Shmei Rabbah,
Ponar,
V'yoma Divrach Hirutei,
Baba Yar,
V'yamlich Malchutei,
Majdanek,
B'chayechon V'yomechon,
Birkenau,
Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael,
Kavno,
Ba'agala V'zman Kariv,
Yanovska,
V'maru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Melmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach.
Theresienstadt,
V'yitba'ar v'yitromam.
Buchenwald,
V'yitnaseh v'yitadar.
Treblinka,
V'yitala v'yitalal.
Vilna,
Shmei Kudisha Barichu.
Bergen-Belsen,
Le'ela.
Mauthausen,
Min kol birchata v'shirata.
Dachau,
Tushbachata v'nechamata.
Minsk,
Da'amiran b'yoma.
Warsaw,
V'imaru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru amen. O se shalom b'imramav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru amen. You may be seated.
There are so many people to thank for this program. I think first and foremost, someone who has really, at least in this, been the driving force, Rabbi Scott Kramer here, who has just an incredible program and trying to coordinate online, streaming, and in person. He has done just an incredible job. So thank you, Scott. To St. James, Dr. Taylor, the teachers, the students, thank you for coming. Dr. York, the choir was fantastic. To the commissioners, to our legislators, thank you so much for everything you do. Let me end with this, with a charge to St. James. You're our future. Do not let remembrance become an empty ritual. Thank you. For those that are here, we have a reception in the adjoining room, and you are all welcome. Thank you so much.